The preseason all SEC teams and SEC poll is out. What did they screw up?
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. We'll talk about Monarch Money in just a little bit. I want to thank you, everydayers, for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today. And thanks to everybody for making us your first listen every single day. You guys are the best. Probably not your first listen today because we were trying to hold off to have a show until the All SEC poll was out and the SEC poll and the All SEC teams were out, and they are out, and they went about as I expected from an Alabama perspective. There are two Bammers on the well, let's start with the poll itself. That's a better way to go. Predicted order of finish, for those who haven't seen it, is Texas, Georgia, Bama at 3, LSU, South Kakalaki, Florida, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Auburn at 11, Missouri at 12, Vandy at 13, Arkansas, Kentucky, and Mississippi State. So, Jimmy, I look at that and I go, I could live with that. I mean, of course you want to win the conference. Of course you do. But if Alabama finishes third in the SEC, they're getting in the playoffs.
It's actually remarkable if you think about it, because this isn't Alabama fans. This isn't even Alabama writers. These are the writers that cover the SEC. So it's every team's writers plus some national folks that are voting in this. And Alabama lost 4 games last year for the first time since 2006 or 2007. It's the first time they've lost that many games. They don't return a starting quarterback. So many of these preseason polls are almost, hey, is your quarterback back? So Alabama loses the quarterback. They're off a 4-loss season and still picked to finish third. And what I think is not just the toughest conference in the country, in my estimation, Luke, and this sounds crazy when I say it, but it's hard not to agree with it. This upcoming SEC season is the greatest conference of all time. And that's simply because last year you added Texas and Oklahoma, thus making it the greatest conference ever. And I do think this year the league is even tougher than it was a year ago. So this is the greatest conference of all time in college football. And Alabama's picked to finish third off of what was a disappointing season a year ago, even per DeBoer's own words, that the team didn't live up to the Alabama standard. So I think third is a heck of a nod, to say nothing of the fact, Luke, that do we doubt that the SEC would get 3 teams in the playoff? So what the media is saying here is that, yeah, Alabama's in.
Yeah. And I think they would be in here. In fact, I would go so venture to say, I mean, barring LSU having serious collapse and no good wins, LSU at 4 would probably be in this scenario.
Agreed.
Or South Carolina at 5. One of those two would be in. When I look at this and, Texas at 1, I get it. I get why people are doing that. Mm-hmm. And I also then I want to say that they're wrong, because I still think, until Sark pulls it off, I'm not going to buy in. But their schedule is so easy outside of the game at Ohio State and the game at Georgia. But they could lose both of those, still win the league, still be a top seed in the playoffs.
I know it's an upset, but I have Texas losing at Florida also.
Okay.
I mean, and I'm not – if I had to bet money today, if we're like, okay, all right, we're all putting $20 in, pick a straight-up winner, I'm going to bet on Texas.
Sure.
But I think Florida could win that game. I really do. It's at Florida. Florida's very good. They got the quarterback. I just sort of like Florida there, but I get the Texas thing. And Eric D asked, why would Texas be at 1? Let's remember this. 2 things. Number 1, Texas is in back-to-back Final Fours. I know that's a basketball term, not a football term, but literally back-to-back Final Fours. And 2 things, this is the best defense they've ever had. It might be the best defense in college football. Multiple first-round picks all over that defense. The defense is for real good. And I think it's a bit of a projection, but I think they've improved at quarterback. Yes, Quinn Ewers, good, probably even undervalued and underrated. But I think Texas back-to-back Final Fours, now has the best defense in the sport, improved at quarterback. Heck yes, I think Texas should be number one.
Well,
I think Texas number one in the country.
And not only that, again, it goes back to what I said, the schedule. I mean, their schedule is
they don't have the Florida or Oklahoma schedule.
No,
because if they did, I wouldn't put them number one.
You know, they just it's pretty lax.
Relative to the SEC.
Relative to the SEC, I mean that again.
They're also lucky. We should comment on this because it's a little unfair. Florida, Georgia has this too. So this is Texas's turn to be on the road in the Texas Oklahoma game, which they play in Dallas, the Red River rivalry. That means Texas only has 3 true road games. And Florida, Georgia has that same situation too.
Georgia, I was going to say that, yeah.
Yeah, Florida, Georgia has the same situation too. There might be a couple of other neutral games, but that is an advantage. It really is, where one of your impossible road games is actually a neutral site game, in your own state.
Yeah, and again, I'm saying that I understand why Texas has won. Yep. I don't think Texas is going to win at all. The more people buy into the Arch Manning hype, the less I buy into it. Again, it's just because maybe I'm just being, tough here on Arch Manning. But okay, so what else?
A lot of Alabama fans just don't like the Mannings. I mean,
I don't mind the Mannings.
A lot of Alabama fans just don't, and I think a lot of Alabama fans questioning of Arch starts with the fact they just don't like the Mannings.
Okay,
I do. I like them all.
Morgan Guffey, man, what a great name. He says Texas is the team who accomplishes nothing and always overrated.
Well, I would say back-to-back Final Fours.
Yeah, that's not nothing. I mean, that's like saying Alabama never accomplishes anything in basketball and they made 2 straight Elite Eights. I mean, I'm taking that as something. Now we hadn't won it all. I'm with you, Jimmy. I'm not. The accomplishes nothing, I think, is a little bit far.
When you're saying you have to win a national championship to impress you, there's only 3 coaches in college football that have won it all. Only 3.
Yeah. Now, all right, let's going back to the poll for a second. So Texas 1, Georgia 2, Bama 3, LSU 4. I think that's going to be pretty much universal.
That's what I expected totally. 5 was a little bit of a surprise to me, but I get it. I mean, I get South Carolina there. But
now, from an Alabama perspective, when you first think about Alabama's schedule, you're like, oh, it's rough. And it is rough, especially compared to like Texas's, because we're at Georgia, who's number 2, and we're at South Carolina, who's 5. But we got LSU at home at 4, and then we don't play another team on the list until number 9, Tennessee, number 10, Oklahoma, number 11, Auburn, number 12, Missouri, number 13, Vandy. Yeah, I wish we played Kentucky or Mississippi State, but we don't. So I feel like, okay, this seems a lot more manageable to me right now. I, of course, am assuming we go to Florida State and win, and we go to Wisconsin and win. We're going to be double-digit favorites in both of them. It's not crazy for me to make that assumption. But, I also throw in, I did a segment with Spencer McLaughlin the other day, and he said, what's your take on Alabama? I said, I think they'll go 10-2. And I said, if you had told me that 5 years ago, I'd go in the room, lock my door, and cry. But this year, if you told me 10-2, I'm like, give it to me. I'm in the playoffs. I'm in the playoffs with 10-2. And that's the new college football we're still not all used to.
No, that's a great point. And 10-2 is the new 11-1. Let's remember this. I knew as further we get away from Nick Saban era, as further we get away from it, the memory is going to be, well, under Saban, we were always 12-0. That's not true. As a matter of the most common outcome of a Nick Saban season is an amazing 11-1. But Saban didn't coach in the 16-team SEC. He didn't coach in the NIL and transfer portal era, which has created some level of parity out there. I think 10-2 is the new 11-1.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. So is there anybody else on the list? I'll tell you the one team that I think may be underrated, and that's Texas A&M. And the reason I say that, Texas A&M doesn't play Georgia. They don't play Bama. They do have LSU, and they have Florida, but they get them at home this year. And then I just look at their blue chip ratio. That came out via CBS. Texas A&M has like the 3rd best blue chip ratio in the country.
I would put them 5th.
Georgia
I'm with you. I think they should be 5th. They should be right behind LSU, if not ahead of them. I'm with you. I have A&M in the playoff.
Yeah,
myself, because I'm close.
Okay,
I'm close to being done with my playoff projection, but I'm going to have A&M in the playoff. I mean, They are return a quarterback. They have the most loaded running back group in the SEC. They added KJ Concepcion at wide receiver to what was already a pretty good group. They're really good up front. Cole Kubalik said on Josh Pate's show, A&M goes 7 deep up front. No one else in the league does that. They're 7 deep. So I Dewberry left to go to Alabama, a less loaded situation, which is saying a lot because PFF says Alabama's got the best offensive line in college football, but Dewberry left A&M because they got 7 guys even without him. That's a loaded offense. And on top of it, Mike Elko, he's a defense guy. He's a defense first guy. Terrion York at middle linebacker, as good as anybody, not named Anthony Hill. So I'm with you on A&M. I also think in this poll, they have Missouri too low, but Missouri's in a spot where it's like, well, they got to put somebody there. I'm not sure who you put there, but Missouri's a heck of a lot better than 12th in the SEC. I mean, I think Missouri is an absolute legitimate top 20 football team this fall.
Agreed. And their schedule is bupkis. I mean, it is really, they played their first 6 games in Columbia, Missouri. By the way, if anybody's going to that game, I just made my plans to go with my buddies and we do an annual trip to a road game. So I hope to see you out there. But Jimmy, I need to tell everybody about Monarch Money. Monarch Money, you know you love it. You know you do. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? Of course you did. Well, with Monarch Money, it can be. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one little old place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. I love the fact that Monarch Money has pointed out to me, Luke, you're going out to eat way too much. You're spending way too much money, and I've saved money. And so I appreciate Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, LOCKEDONCollege, for half off your first year with Monarch Money. All right, so let's talk a little all SEC team. First of all, my annual rant on how dumb it is to just do one team. Why do we need a second and third team?
You just want one team, because I thought you were about to say we shouldn't have a third team, but you go so far as to say no second or third team.
I think it would. I mean, from a talking perspective, how much more fun could we have? Like when you say in this particular instance, the surprise of the whole thing to me was Lenora Sellers 1, Garrett Nussmeier 2. I found that. I was like, whoa. And that is a talking point. But because you have Garrett Nussmeier 2, you're sort of like, okay, and Arch Manning 3, you know. But if you just said, I'm putting Lenora Sellers there and then didn't put out a second or third team, people would be losing their minds. Now, I think some people are probably already losing their minds because this is controversial to me. I'm taking Garrett Nussmeier over these other two.
I'd take Nussmeier too. I'd take Nussmeier in the preseason, though I've got no problem in saying out loud, as a prediction, I think in the postseason it's going to be Arch as first team. But that's a prediction. Sure. Nussmeier has earned first team preseason all SEC, in my opinion, ahead of Lenore Sellers. Here's a weird Alabama angle to me. And tell me this is why I'm probably undervaluing Lenoris a little bit. And I think Alabama fans, y'all Alabama people listening to our show, a lot of you will agree with this. I compare Lenoris. I mean this as a compliment. I think he's very similar to Jalen Milroe. And that's who he is to me. And I mean it totally as a compliment. This kid has Jalen Milroe abilities. But I also think because I'm comparing Jalen Milroe in my head, I'm like, well, I'm not going to put him first team because Milroe was never a first team all SEC performer. Wasn't even should have been second team all SEC performer. He's just a freak athlete that when it's all going well, good luck defending him, but it doesn't always go well. And that's kind of how I see Lenore Sellers, but that might be underrating him, or maybe it's not fair, but I think Alabama fans listen to that. We're like, well, I get how Jimmy views him anyway.
Let me just throw this out there. Greg Skipworth says, how is the Auburn wide receiver room affected by Malcolm Simmons' arrest? I mean, first of all, Malcolm Simmons, who is from Alexander City, where I'm from, I'm in Alex City right now. He hadn't been dismissed or anything like that yet.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen there. I can tell you he's an incredible talent. I wish he had gone to Alabama. But if what is alleged happened, I don't see how in the world you can keep him around. But we can talk about that another time. I just don't want to I don't want to avoid anybody's questions. Now, the other thing that surprised me a little bit, Le'Veon Moss is a first-team running back. He might not even be ready for the start of the season.
Yeah, he's a bit in the news, right? Last day or two. Didn't he get in trouble?
I think he got in trouble, but he was also injured, right?
Okay. I don't remember. I just know he's been in the news now. A&M has 3 guys in their running back room that are all more than capable of being RB1. It's the deepest room in the league. I think SEC running back. I love the SEC this year. I think I love the quarterback group. I think the SEC's had other years where the running back group has been better than what it's got right now. Now it's going to prove to be better than we think because a lot of new names are going to emerge. I'll give you one. Jordan Baugh at Florida, I think, could have a real blow-up year. Jordan Baugh, I think is how he said that he could have a huge blow-up year and become a real thing. Wisner at Texas is outstanding. And Moss, when he's healthy and not in trouble, it is good at A&M, I think. But I think normally the SEC has a better collection of backs than what we'll see this fall.
Milroe is better. Keelan is better. That's his username. He says, I don't want none of you trying to hop back on the Milroe bandwagon when he starts lighting up.
I've never left the Milroe bandwagon.
I know. I think he must be talking to other people. You and I have been accused of being Milroe apologists, but I just had to throw that out there. Now, so Alabama guys, this was something. Ryan Williams, first team, no brainer. They have Cam Coleman first team. And I find that interesting because I think Eric Singleton may be the best wide receiver on that team when all said and done. But
I agree.
Caden Proctor, first team All SEC. I agree with that. Now, second team, you have Jaden Roberts and Parker Brailsford. I think Parker Brailsford may end up being first team when all said and done. Third team, this is where to me it starts to get silly on the third team. You have Jam Miller at Alabama. We love Jam Miller. Yeah. Jimmy just had him on the countdown. He's way up there. We also believe – hey, he is not in the up there with the latest run of Alabama running backs.
Yeah, so, based on what we've seen to date, I don't think he merits all SEC inclusion. And it goes to Luke's point of having a third team might be a bit of a stretch here if Jam is on it. But yes, talking to fans, not YouTube boomers.
Yeah,
I laugh every time I'm called boomers. I'll laugh every time I'm called a boomer. I think it's funny.
My parents are boomers.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually in Generation X.
Yeah, we're Generation X.
We're Generation X, yeah.
So, first team
defense. I act like a boomer.
First team defense, no Bammers. When's the last time that happened? I mean, it probably hadn't happened in 15 years.
And, I'm not throwing shot. I like the first team all SEC. When I looked at it, I'm like, I could make an argument here and there, but I thought it was pretty fair, in the first team defense. But I do think LT Overton, Deontay Lawson, and Damani Jackson, those 3 in particular to me, deserve to be on the first team. Now, there might not be room for them. And as much as I'm crazy about, here's a good example. I'm crazy about Deontay Lawson. I think he's great. I think he deserves to be first team All SEC, but he's not as good as Anthony Hill. And he's probably not as good as Terrion York at Texas A&M. I agree. Those are next level first round freaks, which is saying a lot for that position, which doesn't normally produce first rounders. But you're going to see Anthony Hill may go in the top 5, and inside linebacker hardly ever produces first round picks at all. But Anthony Hill, he's from another planet. So that's just a good example of why Lawson deserves to be on the first team. But hey, when your competition is Hill and York, I get it.
Let me tell you this. This is how good the SEC linebackers are. Your second team is Deontay Lawson, Harold Perkins, and Suntaran Perkins.
That's ridiculous.
I would take Suntaran Perkins over just about every other linebacker not named Anthony Hill. And I'm not sure I don't take him over him. I love Suntaran Perkins.
I agree. And I shouldn't have left Whit Weeks out of my inside linebacker group that's out of it, because Whit Weeks probably deserve it more than Lawson too. Who Whit Weeks is like, he would have a great stat game if he only played 7 snaps, 7 tackles, 2 sacks, and an interception. If he played 7 snaps. I mean, he is a production machine inside linebacker for LSU. Great football player.
So the other thing that stood out to me, how about this? This is it's like they wanted to placate all the Bammers, right? They have Keon Tab and Bray Hubbard on the third team, and I'm like, that way nobody's mad, everybody's happy. But it's also kind of silly because I don't think either one. I think one of the two might make something like that, but not both.
I'm a little surprised that both, but again, it's a product of having a third team All SEC. I'm big on both. I think they're one of the better safety duos in the country, but I also don't think either one has performed at a first team All SEC level yet. I think both of them are very capable and might show that this fall, but so far, neither have been a first. Bray Hubbard, though, only's got about 6 or 7 starts ever. And of course, Keon Sabb, we only saw him for about 5 or 6. Keon was healthy just a very small amount of 2024. We hadn't really seen Keon beyond three or 4 healthy games.
And Milroe is better, Keelan is better, says was Suntaran Perkins and Nick Saban whiff. No, he wanted him. We thought we were going to get him.
We recruited him very hard.
We went. I thought he was going to Bama. Like a lot of people thought that, and Ole Miss
he just chose Ole Miss. He just straight up chose Ole Miss over Alabama. And a big part of that, by the way, we kind of burned ourselves a little bit, is Pete Golding was recruiting him for a couple of years for Alabama. Yeah. Golding moves over to Ole Miss, starts recruiting him for Ole Miss. That's who Perkins had the best relationship with. Perkins basically just chose to play for Pete Golding.
So the question is Suntaran Perkins worthy of keeping Pete Golding another year?
Oh, their numbers last year was one of the best Ole Miss defenses ever. Yeah.
I know he's a whipping.
Perkins is a big part of that. Perkins is a big part of Ole Miss's defense being good. But last year they had that great defensive line. This is more of a test this fall for Pete, I think, because he doesn't have the premium talent he had a year ago.
All right. So we're going to get into Jimmy's roster countdown next. And it's a guy that ain't on any of these All SEC lists, but he might be when all said and done. Got to say, Jimmy, by the way, I want everybody be sure to subscribe to the show while you're here. If you would just hit that subscribe button, we would appreciate it. It's nothing. It doesn't cost you anything. If you just hit subscribe, we would really, 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 really appreciate it.
Keeps this show going. Keeps the show going.
So, a couple of guys that didn't make any of these lists that shocked me a little. No Quay Russaw. No James Smith, and you're about to talk about James Smith. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say either or both make first or second team when all said and done this year.
Yeah, these are just good examples of, I get James Smith and Quay Russaw not being on these lists because they haven't produced enough on the field to justify a preseason type selection. But us Alabama fans, everybody listen to the show, 95% of y'all are Alabama fans. Y'all watched every game last year. So y'all know what we're likely to see from James Smith and Quay Russaw this fall. And that's them proving the recruiting hype. I mean, they were both 5-star type prospects. It was a circus around their recruitment. Alabama fans dying to sign them. Auburn fans dying to sign them. Alabama gets them. And I wouldn't say that so far their careers have been quiet, because that's not true. Because it only really took until year 2 on campus before they became significant players on Alabama's defense. Both were significant players at Alabama last year. But now we're about to see year 3. And that's when you see the typical big move for guys that are future pro football players. I think that's what we see out of James Smith this fall. I think we've seen flashes. The great players don't play in flashes. They play every snap. Every snap, there's something to deal with. And James Smith, not on these preseason lists, but LT Overton and Tim Keenan were. I won't be shocked, Luke, at the end of the season where we're saying, you know what? Our best defensive lineman was not Tim Keenan or LT Overton. They're not as good as James Smith. I mean, that's how good this kid can be. But admittedly, this is a projection because we haven't seen James Smith play at that level yet. We just sort of sense it's coming, right?
And that's true. And again, that's fair. And everybody's going to be biased to their own guy. They're like, how can you leave player X off the list? I mean, my God, don't they read the paper? Well, nobody reads the paper. There's no papers anymore. But don't they read the internet? Now, Eric D says injuries for Rusaw, that's kept him out of the conversation.
I think there's something to that. He
That's
wasn't
fair.
completely healthy last year. He wasn't
Harold
completely
Perkins
healthy
missed
all
a lot
last
of
year.
last year.
Yeah,
Le'Veon Moss missed a lot of last year.
Yeah,
I
Rusaw
don't know
just
about
doesn't.
a lot, but he missed some.
Rusaw is, to this point, a lot of hype based on potential as opposed to on the field playmaker. He did flash at times. The interception against, I think it was Mercer, unbelievable. I mean, but he flashed. He showed what he can be. The challenge for James Smith and Taquay Rusaw is the same, which is we need y'all to show up on every snap that you're out there and be a player that impacts the outcome of the game. That's how good they can be. They can influence the outcome of the game because they're so good. We need to see that more consistently and not just in flashes. But I would also say both are on track. Both of them are on track to leave Alabama as outstanding football players and good pro players. They're on track to do that, but it requires this upcoming fall to sort of be a coming out party of sorts for both of them.
I'm going to say one more time, y'all please subscribe to the show. We appreciate it. It means a lot to us, and it helps get things going. Somebody actually suggested me, said, hey, you should say that more often. So that's what I'm doing. But so, Jimmy, was there anything else about the all SEC teams that kind of shook you up? I mean, again, the Sailors over Nussmeier thing feels like taking Ryan Leaf, the people who wanted to take Ryan Leaf in the draft over Peyton Manning. Like you talk yourself into something.
There's too small of a sample size to select Sellers over Nussmeier, in my opinion. I mean, Sellers has a lot fewer career starts. Nussmeier was showing out even when he was Jaden Daniels' backup.
Yeah.
You know, he got to play it. He was good then. Nussmeier's just got a longer track record. I just think Nussmeier's more dependable. Now, Lenore's may prove me wrong, and I may be going to the end of the year like, you know what? He's better than Milroe because he's more consistent player than Milroe was. But I do think he's got Milroe-type ability, and that is, as far as I'm concerned, a tremendous compliment.
Milroe is better. Keelan is better. Says, I'm subscribed on 2 channels. Well, you're the real MVP, sir.
There's a fine American is what that guy is right there.
I want to dance at one of your weddings. So, all right. Well, that's
the one before the Coldplay concert, and then the one about a year or two after a Coldplay concert.
Can you imagine? You know, I do have a friend. Well, he's passed, but there was a guy that I knew who got caught with his side piece at the Auburn, Georgia game. Big Auburn fan, and he was at the Auburn, Georgia game, and I can't remember if it was the Jumbotron that showed him or that it was like the TV camera that panned and just saw him with his extra. And yeah, it was costly.
Wow. I think it is a cool story though, when you're talking to your buddy and your buddy's like, boy, you look today. It's like, yeah, I got busted cheating on the wife. You got busted. She walk in on you and you're like, no, that Chris Martin from Coldplay busted us.
Well, what's even funnier.
That's a good story.
Somebody played the video backwards and we're like, that's what I would show my wife, the video backwards, and be like, hey honey, I was just tying my shoes, and then I consoled this woman who was crying, because if you play it forwards, you know, they're holding each other, and then she turns around and does this and he ducks to the floor. So if you play it backwards, you know, it looks a lot more innocent. Regardless, my advice to anybody out there, if you have something like this going on, don't go to a concert with
that size.
Holy cow.
Of that size. Like, you know, Coldplay, it generates a bit of attention. It was just the freaking New England Patriots Stadium.
Somebody said, you know, it's unbelievable. He's worth $1.2 billion. And somebody else said, no, now he's worth $600 million. Because he just lost half of it.
Coldplay is playing Nashville July 22nd. I even talked about on this show that I was going to use Gametime to maybe get some Coldplay tickets, and that's still not looking good for me.
My advice to you is to take Kelly. All right. That's going to do it for today's pod. We'll be back Sunday with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.